Hi everyone, it's Mrs. Arietta. I'm doing my first video of a 10 video series about your packets that the district distributed this past Monday. I know I'm 2 days behind, but I hope to catch up to you guys. You should expect to see more videos like this in the future. But let's go ahead and talk about day 1 of your 10-day packet. So the first requirement is that you do independent reading. So the packet says, read a book or article of your choice and complete the reading log. What that means is that you should be reading something for 30 minutes. Doesn't really matter what, book, article, as long as it's for 30 minutes. And then you should complete the reading log, which means a 1-paragraph reflection. Maybe you choose to write a summary about what you read. Maybe you write about the characters, the plot, the setting, the theme. If you read an article, summarize its main points and discuss its significance. It doesn't really matter how you choose to reflect about it as long as it's a full paragraph. The second step for reading for the 7th grade packet, day 1, is something called a Notice and Wonder poster. So you'll see a couple of pages that include photographs of plants. And then the third page of that set is a T-chart, a poster, where one side asks you for notes about what you noticed, and then the other side of this T-chart asks you about what you wondered. So we are going to look at the pictures of these invasive plant species, such as the Japanese knotweed and the kudzu. Then we're going to write anything that we notice under the left column and the things that we wondered about on the right side. The writing portion of today's lesson is reading the explanatory article writing prompt and, sorry for my typo, source number 1 invasive plant fact sheet. So we're going to annotate, highlight, and underline the important ideas in that fact sheet. So first things first is we're going to look at pictures of the Japanese knotweed. So these are the exact pictures that you should see in your packet. In the first picture, you can see a little girl. She's standing by the Japanese knotweed, and you can get a feel for just how big these things can grow. They can get very tall, and their leaves are really big. I mean, if she was to hold one of those leaves next to her face, it would be comparable in size. The next photo on yours is actually, I believe, the one with the wall. So you can actually see how this plant will look for any opportunity to grow, right through the bricks even, and it starts to shoot upward really tall and really fast. The next one you can actually see is the one in the middle for my slides. You can see the Japanese knotweed growing through concrete. It actually can break through things like pavement and sidewalks and grow wherever it feels like. The next page is all about the kudzu. Now this one is a little bit less invasive in terms of shooting upward. You can see that this one likes to sprawl over surfaces. So the first picture is a house. I don't know if you can tell, but I see a roof line and a chimney and what might have been walls and other decorations. The whole house has been taken over by this kudzu, and it just covers every square inch. The next picture, I believe, is the bridge. You can actually see that this plant is attempting to cover the bridge, and we call this crawling. When the plant starts to grow across a surface like this, this is a crawling ivy-type plant, and it's slowly spreading its way across the railing of this bridge. And then the last picture that I have is basically the same as the one that's in your packet. It's the size and the shape of the leaves, and it really does look like ivy. It looks like plants that we sometimes grow intentionally to grow up walls and around pillars, but this is definitely not the ivy that we know. This is the invasive plant kudzu. So that packet asks you to now notice things and wonder things about the plants. I have some examples of questions that you might want to use as things to focus on about the plants. So, what did you notice about where they grow? What have you noticed about how durable or strong the plants are? And you should make sure you say the difference between the Japanese knotweed and the kudzu. What did you notice about their color, their physical appearance, their size, their shape, their leaf shapes, their stem shapes, all of those things? What have you noticed? And what do you notice about their size when they're left to grow untrimmed? So most of those pictures were of the plants when they're not tampered with, when we don't maintain them, when we cut them back or try to kill them. This is when they are let loose and let to be their invasive cells. So what do you notice about their size? So I can't tell you what you might wonder about, but these are some questions that I wondered when I looked at those 3 pictures. So you should think of other things that you are kind of curious about now, things that you might wonder about these plants. So I wondered whether the plants have practical applications, either in their growth or in their harvesting. So if you were looking to regrow a forest that had been damaged by a forest fire, would that provide a food source for local wildlife? Is there a way for us to take the leaves and the stems and use them for something like medicine or for food? Another thing that I wondered was, how does their growth affect humans, animals, and other plants? So obviously it affects humans a little bit by affecting their homes, but are the leaves poisonous? Does it prevent other food sources from growing for other animals and for humans? And how much does it prevent other plants from growing? Does it hog all the water? Is it possible to kill the plants when they become a danger for the other wildlife? So obviously these plants are invasive because they're hard to get rid of, but is it possible to kill them, and how do you do so? Is it lack of water or too much water, not enough sun, too much sun? Do we have to poison them? How do we kill them if it is possible? So the reason why this is the reading is because you're going to be writing an informative or explanatory essay. Actually, it's more like an article, but for our sake, we'll call it an essay about these invasive plant species like the Japanese knotweed or the kudzu. So the prompt has created this hypothetical, and this essay is actually for your science club. The science club in your school wants to help students and teachers better understand invasive plant species that have recently appeared on your campus. So let's imagine that Murray Middle School has now had invasive plant species starting to take over our poor campus. The Science Club has been asked to help them, ask you to help them with their research on this topic. So using more than one source, develop a thesis or controlling idea about invasive plant species. Once you have a thesis statement, select the most relevant information from more than one source to support your thesis. Then, write a multi-paragraph explanatory article explaining your thesis. Clearly organize your article and elaborate on your ideas. Develop your ideas and use your own words, except when quoting directly from other sources. Be sure to reference the source title or number when quoting or paraphrasing details or facts from sources. So what this means is we're treating this kind of like an essay you would do in school. You have to have a thesis statement. You have to have multiple paragraphs with a clear topic within each body paragraph, and it should be organized in a clear way. When you go to cite sources, you should either have a direct quote, which means you put it in quotation marks, and at the end of it, you have the source title or the number, and the page number or paragraph number. It might not offer it in the paragraph, so just the title will be fine. If you choose to paragraph, you should still put in parentheses the title of the source where you got that information from, because paraphrasing is still citing. So when we go to grade these essays, we're going to be looking for organization and purpose. So if you guys remember, we did stars and bars a little while ago as a way to organize essays. It's completely optional if you want to use an outline or organizer for your essay. But stars and bars is when you made a T-chart, and on one side you have the big ideas, the stars, the big concepts about this topic. So if we're writing an essay about the plants, what are the main big things that someone needs to know about those plants? On the bars side, that's where you get a little bit more specific and you explain in only a few words what we need to know about that big topic and what the sources say about that big topic. It'll help your article flow more logically from beginning to end. You also need to make sure that you have one clear thesis statement that should go in the introductory paragraph, but for your organizer, it should go on the top of your T-chart. And you're going to tell me in one sentence what your essay is all about. Invasive plant species are severely detrimental to not only the environment, but to human interactions and experiences. Sorry, I've got hair floating around. So The next thing you need is evidence and elaboration. So like a normal essay in school, you should have 2 sources with citations in every body paragraph. That makes sure that your topic is well supported. Make sure that you include the citation in parentheses at the end of the paraphrase section or the quote. And then the last thing you need to have is grammar, spelling, capitalization, or punctuation, or as we like to call it, conventions. Are you using proper English, and are you checking yourself? Now, if you're handwriting your essay, you won't have access to a spell checker. If you do have the ability to type your essay into Microsoft Word or Google Docs and use a spell checker that way, you would be able to check some of those little issues, and then you can handwrite it into the packet later. Or if you don't have access to doing that, ask a parent or a guardian or a friend or a sibling to proofread your essay for you, and maybe they'll catch some of those issues. Either way, as long as you have another pair of eyes, either the digital eyes or real eyes, checking for those issues, you should be fine on conventions. So the next step is something you have to do independently. I'm not going to read this over for you. They have given you a fact sheet about invasive plant species. You need to read it, and as you read it, I want you to either take a highlighter or a pen or a pencil and underline or highlight numbers or facts that either surprised you, like you weren't expecting to see such a big number, significant, like that is a big and important thing that everybody should know about, or relevant to the prompt. Maybe you find a fact that you're like, ooh, I will definitely need to use that when writing about why these plants are bad for our school. Once you have read the whole article or fact sheet, there's a page with lines on it that you need to take notes. Now, you probably have been wondering what kind of notes belong on that page. Here are some questions that you can use to fill that page with notes. What did you learn about invasive plant species from this one source? How might this article be useful for your essay or article? What did you notice in this fact sheet? And what are you still wondering about? What do you hope that other sources in the future will teach you about these invasive plant species before you start writing your essay? Tomorrow, we'll talk about the other sources and other reading prompts that are in the packet, and hopefully we can get you on track to writing this article about invasive plant species. If you have any questions, please comment on Google Classroom or on this video, and I'll try to help you as quickly as I can. Be on the lookout for the next video in this series. But with that, have a great rest of your day and good luck!